Okay, welcome to the Human Resource Management presentation lecture part 3, which deals with training employees. So we've recruited, we've hired, and now that we have the people in place, now we have to train them to do what we need them to do and let them develop as professionals. So please make sure that you have the note guide to go along with this so that you can take the notes down as we go through this presentation lecture's material, and use that note guide as a study tool for when we get to time for assessing either through quiz or through unit exam. All right, so let's get started. First of all, training. Let's take a look at why. Why train? You train to develop employees. How will training be accomplished? These are questions, got to go back. These are questions that need to be asked when it comes to training. We train to develop employees. We want them to improve, want them to get better, we want them to evolve in their position. But then after that has been determined, now we have to determine how are we going to do that? How will the training happen? Could it be internal? Could it be external? Could it be a combination of both? As well as who's going to be primarily responsible for the training? So keep those questions in the back of your head as we go through the rest of this in determining how employees are trained. First, let's take a look at the why. Well, when you train, you have a new employee. And when the new employee comes on board, the first thing that the new employee is going to have to be exposed to is an orientation. Now, the orientation is going to be getting employee accustomed to the business. This might be in terms of training videos, seeing the office, walking through some of the responsibilities that this person is going to be responsible for, meeting some of the other employees and coworkers that will be working closely with on a daily basis. These would all be things that would be considered in the orientation. A current employee who has been promoted and needs to be trained is going to need new skills to stay current. So there's always going to be room for improvement, always looking to evolve our employees and make them better employees. Now, if they are promoted to a new and different position, it doesn't mean that the training ceases or stops. There still needs to be training in this new position, and even if it wasn't in the new position, there needs to be continuous training again for the sake of employee improvement. And then also the training is also going to understand or at least make the employee aware of the fact that there is value with this employee. We are going to put in time and resources to develop you as an employee because we want you to improve. So it sends a message to the employee that you are an important part of our organization and we want you to improve. We want you to get better. Now, how to do training, there's a number of different techniques that can be done. Let's take a look first at on-the-job training, or OJT. This is when employees learn the job on site under the direction of a manager or an expertise employee, maybe a mentor of some kind. On-the-job training is probably the best training that is out there, but it is also can be very, very difficult at times. Nothing is going to substitute for being in the mix, doing the job, learning from your errors, going through trial and error. There's vestibule training, another training technique. This takes place at a location away from the job. This stimulates the actual work site. So this could be workshops, conferences, other professional development opportunities that might be taking place off-site from outside trainers outside of the organization. There's classroom teaching. Classroom teaching, which might consist of different learning activities such as lecture, discussions, role plays. These are all used to provide knowledge and problem-solving skills that are needed. We do a lot of these things in our classroom activities, and we're not necessarily training for a particular position, just training for you to be an adult and to be able to go into the workforce and be a contributing member of society. There's also coaching. Employees receive ongoing instruction and feedback regarding job performance from a manager. These could come from mini observations. These could just come from informal observations and conversations in passing, and even formal evaluations. Mentoring, one-on-one assistance from an experienced employee to help them get oriented to the business. So in a situation like this, a mentor might actually help with the orientation and any of these other training techniques that are used to develop the employee. Now, not just one of these training techniques are normally selected. More often than not, it's going to be a combination of many or few of these. Job rotation. Employees are moved from one job situation to another to understand the total operation. So you might get a chance to get a little bit of experience in this part of the process, then go into part B of the process, then part C of the process, all the way through until that particular product or service is ready to be delivered to the customer. And then finally, conferences and seminars. Conferences and seminars, which could also obviously work with vestibule training, but vestibule training could also be training that is done by the current organization just taking place off-site. But conferences and seminars could go hand in hand with this because, as I mentioned before, conferences and seminars are going to meet with experts to learn about how to deal with specific concerns or exchange ideas. This is also a situation where a lot of networking takes place. And networking can be very, very beneficial because now you are going and meeting with people who have gone through this, done this. They've had experiences that they can share with you. They can share the strengths, share the weaknesses, do this, don't do that. It can be very beneficial from a networking standpoint. All right, when we get to class next, we'll be moving on eventually as we go through our classroom activities. We are going to be experiencing HR role play part 4. And in part 4, you and your group have hired a new employee and realize that several current employees need some training. You are going to have to explain the following. If you have new employees or if you have current employees, we are going to assume that you have both. What skills will they need if they're a new employee? How do you plan on training them, and why did you select those different techniques to train them? And if you have current employees, same question as for the new employee as to what skills do they need and how will you develop this new employee? So training the new employee, but further developing a current employee. Okay, so you'll be giving explanation on both of those. Okay, so this concludes the presentation lecture on training. Please make sure that you revisit the slides if need be so that you can get the notes down in your note guide. And then I will see you next time we meet in class, and I will see you here for the next presentation lecture on evaluating employees.